The day the aliens arrived was just like any other Tuesday for John Miller. He was at the shooting range, teaching a group of rookies how to handle their weapons properly. The spring air was cool, and the sound of gunfire echoed across the field. Then everyone's phones started buzzing at once. "Class dismissed," John said after reading the emergency alert. His students stared at their screens in disbelief. Alien ships had entered Earth's atmosphere. They were attempting communication. Within hours, the world changed forever. The visitors called themselves the Zarkalian Confederation, an alliance of 7 species that had mastered faster-than-light travel centuries ago. Their massive ships hovered over major cities across the globe, sleek and silver against the blue sky. 3 days later, John found himself in Washington, D.C., being briefed by government officials. He tugged at his tie, uncomfortable in the formal clothes. "Why am I here?" he asked the woman who had introduced herself as Susan Clark from the State Department. "I'm just a shooting instructor." Susan smiled. Her gray suit matched her practical demeanor. Former Marine Force recon with combat experience in 3 conflict zones. Expert marksman. Current civilian consultant on tactical firearms training. "The aliens have shown particular interest in our military capabilities. We need people who understand warfare, but who can also stay calm under pressure." John nodded. It made sense, even if he didn't like it. The first meeting with the aliens took place in a hastily prepared conference room at the United Nations. High Commander Vex Tool of the Zarkalians stood nearly 7 feet tall. His skin was pale blue, and his 4 eyes blinked independently of each other. 2 smaller aliens flanked him, their fingers constantly moving across handheld devices. "We have observed your world for some time," Vex Tool said, his words translated through a device on his chest. "We are surprised your species has survived this long." Susan Clark stepped forward. "We appreciate your concern, but humans are quite resilient." Vex Tool made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your technology is primitive. Your social structures inefficient. Your weapons—" He paused, all 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "Your weapons are particularly amusing." John felt his face grow hot, but kept his expression neutral. The alien continued. "Nevertheless, the Confederation offers friendship and protection. We propose a series of cultural exchanges to evaluate your potential membership in our alliance." Over the next week, details were arranged. The aliens wanted to observe humans in various settings, especially military demonstrations. John was assigned to coordinate the weapons showcases. "I don't trust them," John told Susan as they left a planning meeting. They walked through the corridors of the Pentagon, their footsteps echoing on the polished floor. "Neither do I," she admitted, "but we need to learn more about them. Their technology could advance us by centuries. Or destroy us entirely," John muttered. The first demonstration was held at a military base in Nevada. The aliens watched impassively as human soldiers displayed their skills with various weapons. When it was over, Vex Tool approached John. "Your projectile weapons spread their shots widely," the alien observed. "Our weapons hit their targets with perfect accuracy, every time." To prove his point, Vex Tool took out a small device and fired a beam of energy at a distant target. The center of the bullseye vaporized completely, leaving a perfect hole. "Perhaps you could benefit from our guidance," Vex Tool said. John smiled tightly. "Perhaps." Later that night, John reviewed footage of the aliens' demonstration, while Susan worked through diplomatic reports. "They only value perfect hits," he observed. "Did you notice that?" Susan looked up from her tablet. "What do you mean?" "They seem to think the only purpose of shooting is hitting the exact center of a target," John explained. "That's not how combat works." "Is that important?" Susan asked. John stared at the frozen image of the alien's perfect shot. "I don't know yet, but something tells me it might be very important indeed." 2 weeks after first contact, the Zarkalians proposed a series of competitions. They called it a friendly cultural exchange. World leaders called it an opportunity. John Miller called it what it was: a test. The events were held in different locations around the globe. The aliens dominated every challenge. They lifted heavier weights than the strongest humans. They ran faster than Olympic sprinters. Their technology demonstrations made Earth's best scientists look like children playing with toys. Today was the weapons competition at a military base in Arizona. The desert heat bore down as soldiers from various nations prepared to show their skills. "This is just for show, right?" asked Lisa Rodriguez, a Navy veteran who specialized in tactical operations. She stood next to John, watching the aliens set up their targets. "Maybe," John said, "but I think they're measuring us for something." High Commander Vex Tool approached them. His blue skin seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. "We look forward to seeing your best shooters," he said. "Though I must warn you, our warriors trained from birth." The human participants went first. Elite marksmen from special forces units around the world demonstrated their skills. They hit moving targets, shot from incredible distances, and showed off rapid-fire accuracy. The crowd of military observers applauded each impressive display. When they finished, Vex Tool tilted his head. "Interesting. Your success rate averages only 87% accuracy." "That's not the point," John started to explain, but the alien had already turned away. The Zarkalian shooters stepped up next. They used sleek energy weapons that made almost no sound. Each shot hit the exact center of every target, regardless of distance or movement. Their final accuracy rate was 100%. "This is the proper way to eliminate threats," Vex Tool announced proudly. "Perfect precision. No wasted energy." Later that evening, military officials from several countries gathered to discuss the day's events. Susan stood at the front of the room, concern evident on her face. "The competitions aren't just friendly games," she said. "The aliens are evaluating us, and based on their comments, we're failing their tests." Kevin Wright, a Pentagon analyst with thick glasses and a serious expression, stepped forward with a tablet. "I've been monitoring their data collection. They're mapping our defense capabilities, weapons stockpiles, and military installations worldwide." "That sounds like preparation for something," Lisa said, exchanging a look with John. Kevin nodded. 5 smaller nations have already signed protection agreements with the Zarkalians. Reports indicate alien forces have established bases in those countries. The room filled with concerned murmurs. John stood up. "There's something else." During the shooting demonstrations, did anyone notice they only value bullseye hits? They don't understand tactical shooting at all. "What do you mean?" asked an Air Force general. "In real combat, we don't just aim for perfect shots," John explained. "We use suppressive fire. We shoot to create zones of control. We target strategic points, not just enemy combatants." Lisa nodded. "He's right. I watched their demonstrations carefully. They always aim for what they consider the optimal target. They lack tactical flexibility." Susan paced the room. "High Commander Vex Tool has requested access to additional military installations for cultural exchanges. The President is under pressure to agree." "We need more time," John said. "If they're planning something, we need to understand their weaknesses. I can buy us a week, maybe 2, with diplomatic delays," Susan replied. John looked at Lisa. "That's enough time to put together a special demonstration, something that might change how they see us." "What are you thinking?" Lisa asked. "They mock our accuracy," John said, a small smile forming on his lips. "Let's show them why accuracy isn't always the most important thing in a fight." Outside the meeting room window, a Zarkalian ship moved into position above the city, its lights blinking against the night sky like a silent warning. Susan worked day and night on diplomatic maneuvers to delay the Zarkalians' plans. She created complex negotiation schedules, requested clarifications on minor details, and insisted on involving more countries in the discussions. Each day bought was another day for John and Lisa to prepare. "We need to show them something they've never seen before," John told the group of military personnel gathered at a secret training facility in Wyoming. The bunker was deep underground. safe from alien surveillance. Lisa nodded. But it can't look like we're preparing for war. It has to seem like a cultural demonstration. A traditional shooting competition, suggested Frank Winters, a retired Army colonel with gray hair and a stern face. We can frame it as sharing our heritage. Over the next week, they practiced, not for accuracy, but for coordination. Teams from different military branches worked together, developing formations and tactics that would seem random to outsiders, but followed precise patterns. On the day of the demonstration, Vex Tool and 20 other Zark aliens arrived at the outdoor range. The blue-skinned aliens watched with their 4 eyes as humans set up various targets and obstacles. "Welcome to our traditional shooting exhibition," John announced. "Today we'll demonstrate various human shooting styles developed over centuries of our history." The demonstration began. The first team showed what they called frontier shooting, moving between cover while firing at multiple targets. They'd rarely hit dead center, instead placing shots in patterns around the targets. The aliens murmured to each other. John heard their translation devices using words like inefficient and amateur. Next came urban combat techniques. Soldiers moved through a mock building, shooting around corners without exposing themselves, placing bullets through walls where enemies might hide. One Zark alien leaned toward another. "They waste so much ammunition on non-targets. Primitive." The final demonstration featured battlefield control. 3 teams coordinated their fire to force imaginary enemies into kill zones, shooting not at targets but at spaces between them. When it ended, the range was silent except for the desert wind. Targets stood with bullets around them, but rarely through their centers. Vex Tool stepped forward. "Most interesting. Your people seem to deliberately avoid hitting targets directly. Perhaps your eyes are not suited for precision." John smiled politely. "We'd be happy to explain our approach." "No need," Vex Tool said, waving a long-fingered hand. "We have seen enough of your capabilities." After the aliens left, Frank turned to John. "They completely missed the point." "Good," John replied. "Let them think we're just bad shots." Later that evening, Susan arrived at their temporary headquarters looking worried. "I've been reviewing historical data the aliens shared. Every planet they've protected eventually became fully controlled by the Confederation. They've never left a world once they've established bases there. And now they have bases in 5 countries, Lisa said. 6, Susan corrected. Argentina signed an agreement this morning. John studied the global map on the wall, marked with alien positions. They're establishing a perimeter, classic encirclement strategy. "There's more," Susan said. "My sources indicate they've begun phase 1 of what they call integration. They're mapping key infrastructure and defense systems in detail." "That's not protection. That's preparation for conquest," Frank said. John pointed to the map. "Notice anything about where they haven't established bases yet. They're avoiding countries with the highest military readiness." Lisa nodded. "They want the easy targets first." A young communications officer rushed into the room. "Sir, we've just intercepted a transmission between Zark alien ships. It contained a countdown sequence." John and Susan exchanged glances. "How long?" John asked. 48 hours, the officer replied. Susan took a deep breath. "I'll inform the President and Allied leaders. We need to prepare without alerting the aliens." "The demonstration wasn't just for show," John said. "It was practice for what's coming. They think we're harmless because we don't shoot like they do. And that," Lisa added with a grim smile, "might be the only advantage we have." The attack began at dawn. Zark alien ships descended on military bases worldwide. Their energy weapons fired with perfect precision, hitting command centers, communication towers, and weapon depots with deadly accuracy. But the aliens found many targets empty. Critical equipment moved. Personnel evacuated. The element of surprise was lost. In the underground command center in Colorado, John watched the attacks unfold on large screens. They're following standard military doctrine. Take out command and control first, then communications, then heavy weapons. Susan nodded, her face pale in the blue light of the monitors. Exactly as we predicted. During the 48 hours before the attack, Earth's military forces had prepared. They didn't try to match the aliens' technology. Instead, they adapted. All units, execute Plan Delta. John spoke into his headset. Around the world, human forces sprang into action. At a naval base in Virginia, Zarkalian ground troops marched in perfect formation toward the main building. Their weapons fired with incredible accuracy, hitting doorways and windows. But they met no resistance. Suddenly, shots rang out from seemingly random locations, from drainage ditches, from behind trash bins, from rooftops of buildings the aliens had deemed unimportant. The shots didn't target the alien soldiers directly. Instead, they hit the ground near their feet, the walls beside them, the air above their heads. The alien commander shouted orders. Focus fire on enemy combatants. But his troops couldn't find clear targets to aim at. Humans fired and moved, never staying in one position. They shot at fire hydrants, causing water to spray across the battlefield, obscuring the aliens' vision. Similar scenes played out across the globe. In Germany, soldiers collapsed a bridge not to kill the aliens crossing it, but to block their path. In Japan, defenders fired at tree branches above alien positions, causing them to look up, while other troops circled behind them. At an airbase in Arizona, Lisa led a counterattack. Her team fired at the landing gear of alien ships rather than their weapon systems. The confused aliens focused on defending their guns while their ships became stranded, unable to take off. "They don't understand what we're doing," Lisa reported over the secure channel. "They keep trying to target our shooters, but we're not staying still long enough." John turned to Frank Winters. "How are we doing?" The retired colonel studied the tactical display. "Holding our own. Their technology is superior, but their tactics are rigid. They don't adapt." Mickleth, the junior alien officer who had secretly contacted John, had provided crucial information. "Their combat doctrine has remained unchanged for 300 years, he had explained. "They see no reason to evolve what they consider perfect." By midday, the Zarkalian attack had stalled. Their perfect formations were broken. Their carefully planned assault was in chaos. In orbit, High Commander Vex Tool raged at his subordinates. "How are these primitives resisting us? Their weapons are inferior. Their aim is pathetic." "Sir," reported a tactical officer, "they are not fighting according to any known doctrine. They fire at non-optimal targets. They move without apparent pattern. Find their command centers and destroy them." Vex Tool ordered. But the humans had no central command to target. Each unit operated independently, following broad guidelines rather than specific orders. On the outskirts of Seattle, an alien cruiser hovered over what their intelligence indicated was a vital communications hub. The ship fired repeatedly at the facility, hitting it with perfect accuracy. Yet human communications continued uninterrupted. They didn't realize the real facility was hidden underground, and they were destroying a decoy. In the Colorado Command Center, Susan received a message from the President. "The Security Council is prepared to consider terms if the aliens request negotiation." John looked at the battle displays, showing alien forces in disarray around the world. "I don't think we'll have to wait long. They're starting to realize their perfect aim doesn't matter if they're shooting at the wrong targets." As if on cue, a communication request came through from Vex Tool's flagship. High Commander Vex Tool's face appeared on the main screen in the command center. His blue skin looked paler than usual, and all four of his eyes blinked rapidly. "I demand to speak with your highest authority," he said. The President appeared on a separate screen from Washington. "This is President Gail Morris. I understand you wished to speak with me." Vex Tool straightened his shoulders. "Your forces are using dishonorable tactics. This is not how civilized species conduct warfare." "We're defending our home," the President replied calmly. "There's nothing dishonorable about that." John and Susan exchanged glances. The alien was frustrated but not yet ready to admit defeat. "I propose a direct meeting," Vex Tool said. "My ship will land at your Pentagon facility in 1 hour. I expect your military leaders to be present." After the transmission ended, Susan turned to John. "He's planning something. This could be a trap." "Definitely," John agreed. "But it's also an opportunity." An hour later, a small Zarkalian ship landed in the Pentagon courtyard. Vex Tool emerged with 4 guards. They were escorted to a conference room where Susan, John, Lisa, and several military leaders waited. Vex Tool looked around the room with obvious disdain. "Your resistance is impressive but futile. The Confederation has never failed to subjugate a world once we begin integration." "Perhaps you've never encountered humans before," Susan replied. "Your weapons are inferior," Vex Tool said. "Your technology primitive. Your tactics chaotic. Yet you managed to disrupt our operations. Explain this." John stepped forward. "Would you like a demonstration?" He took out a marker and drew a large circle on a whiteboard with a bullseye in the center. Then he picked up a pistol from the table. "Your forces aim for perfection. Each shot hits exactly where you want it." John fired 3 shots, all missing the bullseye by different distances. The alien commander looked unimpressed. "But we're not trying to hit the center," John continued. He drew lines from each bullet hole. "We're creating a pattern. Controlling space. In real combat, a perfect shot at the wrong target is useless." Lisa joined him. "When we fire at the ground near your troops, we're not missing. We're making them move where we want them to go. When we shoot at support structures instead of your ship's weapons, we're not being inaccurate. We're being smart," John added. Vex Tool's eyes narrowed. "You deliberately avoid optimal targets." "There's no such thing as an optimal target," John explained. "Only the right target for the current situation." Outside, the sound of helicopter rotors grew louder. John noticed Vex Tool's guards touching their communication devices. "You're stalling," Susan realized suddenly. "You're planning another attack right now." A guard whispered something to Vex Tool, who smiled for the first time. "My forces are surrounding this building as we speak. Your primitive helicopter gunships cannot stop our advanced troops." John and Lisa exchanged a knowing look. John pressed a button on his phone, sending a prearranged signal. "Commander," John said calmly, "we're not trying to stop your troops. Look outside." Vex Tool moved to the window. His guards were standing confused on the lawn, surrounded not by human soldiers, but by civilians with phones and cameras. News helicopters hovered overhead, broadcasting everything live. "What is this?" Vex Tool demanded. "We leaked the location of our meeting," Susan explained. "The whole world is watching your troops prepare to attack unarmed civilians during peace talks. How will that look to other species in your confederation?" For the first time, the alien commander seemed uncertain. Lisa smiled. "We weren't aiming to win by force. We were aiming for this moment right here." "The real target was never your ships or your troops," John added. "It was your reputation, your credibility as a protector of worlds." One of Vex Tool's guards received another message and whispered urgently to him. The commander's expression changed to one of alarm. "What have you done?" he asked. John met his gaze steadily. "Nothing yet. But Michleth has been very helpful in explaining how your command structure works and where your real vulnerabilities are." A day later, representatives from Earth and the Zarkalian Confederation gathered in New York City. The United Nations building buzzed with tension as delegates from every nation waited for the meeting to begin. High Commander Vex Tool entered with a smaller delegation than before. At his side was Michleth, now wearing the insignia of a senior advisor. The young alien looked nervous but determined. "The Confederation proposes a ceasefire," Vex Tool announced without preamble. His voice lacked its usual arrogance. President Morris nodded. "We accept, on the condition that all Zarkalian forces withdraw to orbital positions immediately." Michleth stepped forward. I speak for the Reform Council, newly formed within our fleet. We advocate for true partnership rather than conquest disguised as protection. Screens around the room displayed Zarkalian ships pulling back from Earth's atmosphere. News feeds showed alien troops returning to their vessels, leaving the bases they had established in the 6 countries. Susan leaned toward John. Micheleth wasn't just giving us information. He was organizing a resistance within their ranks. John nodded. Nothing makes you question your leaders like losing a battle they said was impossible to lose. The negotiations continued for hours. By evening, a preliminary agreement was reached. The Zarkalians would withdraw completely from Earth territory. Future contact would be handled through diplomatic channels, with cultural and technological exchanges to be negotiated as equals. As the meeting concluded, Vex Tool approached John. The commander had been officially removed from his position, but remained as an advisor to the new council. I still do not fully understand, the former commander said. How did you defeat our superior technology? John thought for a moment. Have you ever played chess? We have similar strategic games, Vex Toll replied. In chess, the goal isn't to capture the most pieces. It's to capture just one piece, the king, John explained. Your forces were busy counting how many perfect shots you made. We were focused on where those shots should go. You were playing a different game than we were, Vex Tool realized. Exactly, John said. You thought war was about precision. We know it's about adaptation. 6 months later, John stood in front of a mixed class of human and Zarkalian students at a new joint military academy in Colorado. The cool mountain air filled the outdoor shooting range as he prepared his demonstration. Today, we're going to learn about tactical shooting versus target shooting, he announced. He set up a target with a clear bullseye and drew a chalk circle around it on the ground. In target shooting, the goal is to hit the center, he explained, firing a perfect shot into the bullseye. The Zarkalian students nodded approvingly. But in tactical shooting, the goal might be to control the space around the target. He fired 3 shots that missed the bullseye, but created a perfect triangle around it. Lisa, now an instructor alongside John, stepped forward, or to change the environment. She shot at a rope holding a canvas sheet, which fell and covered the target completely. A young Zarkalian raised his hand. But if you cannot see the target, how can you eliminate it? Sometimes elimination isn't the goal, John replied. Sometimes the goal is containment or redirection, or even preservation. From the back of the group, Susan watched with satisfaction. As the new ambassador to the Confederation, she had helped shape this exchange program. They're learning, said Micheleth, who stood beside her. Now the official Zarkalian ambassador to Earth, he had become a trusted ally. We all are, Susan replied. At the firing line, John handed a human pistol to Vex Tool, who had requested to join the class as a student. Would you like to try? John asked. The former commander took the weapon awkwardly. He aimed carefully at the target, then deliberately fired at the ground near it. I missed the bullseye, he said with what might have been a smile. No, John corrected. You hit exactly what you were aiming for.